Today, we are going to discuss block 1, week 5. And this week is talking about understanding the process, either the innovation process or the entrepreneurial process. Okay? And we are going to start with the innovation process. The innovation process had been studied by a lot of researchers. And there are different models that try to explain the innovation process. Like what? Like the first model, which had concentrated on the technology itself and how to develop a certain technology. Regardless this technology will be needed in the market or not. Thus, they try to develop a new technology without detecting if there is a need for this technology in the market or not. Thus, they go into the lab and try to come up with a lot of ideas and invent new technologies, and then they try to sell this technology to the market. And this is the old concept. This had taken place, if you remember, when the first car had been introduced. The companies are not concerned with detecting if there is a need for this car or not. They try to come up with the technology to design the car, and then after they come up with this new technology or new innovative product, they try to sell the product to the market. But there is another model that had emerged, which is the need pull. What do you mean by need pull? Here, I'm going to detect as a company the need in the market for this product. And after I find that there is a need, I'm going to develop the new technology or develop the new innovative product. Then I'm going to introduce it to the market. Thus, we find that in the technology push, or we call it the science push models, which had been developed in the past, the innovation process began with research activity or science activity, either in the university or in the lab. This is in the science push. In the technology push, here the innovation emerged in R&D, research and development activities in organizations. And both of them focus on developing the technologies and selling it. So they are going to focus on the supply side, not on the demand for this technology. They just supply the world with the new technology. These push models are old. It had been used in 1950s and the mid-1960s. While nowadays, these push models cannot be used. Why? Because there is a great competition. And this is why companies face a challenge. They try to be alert for the need of the customer who's going to use this technology. This is why the need pull models had been emerged. And this is why Rothwell had described the second generation models, which had been associated with the market competition, and they try to satisfy the needs of the customer. Why I'm going to satisfy the need? Because I'd like to gain market share. I'd like to be more competitive. This is why I am concerned about need stimulation. I am concerned about commercial success. Before coming up with a technology, sometimes it cannot be used. Sometimes it will be used. The successive models which had discussed the innovation process are third and fourth generation models. And we call them coupling and integrated models. These models had been introduced after the need pool. And they concentrate on making integration and communication between the company department, like R&D and production, R&D and marketing. It should be a kind of integration if I'd like to come up with a new technology. These models concentrated on the integration, the intra-organizational communication, and also the extra-organizational communication. Why? Because you can contact the supplier, you can contact the customers, that you need extra organizational communication. And please, guys, you should remember that you should contact the customer in order to see or to detect the feedback on the prototype that you are going to develop. What is the customer feedback? If the prototype is fine or not, if the customer needs any modification or not. This is why extra-organizational communication is important. Okay? Thus, here, coupling and integrated models are concerned about the network perspective. We are going to transfer to another issue, which is the social innovation process. And in the social innovation process, the aim is not to gain money. The aim is to come up with a new technologies that help the society. Help the society. And this is very important, because I'm going to concentrate on certain segments in the society, like the poor people, the homeless, the addicts, the violent, the people who had come from the prison, the challenges in the climate change, and I am going to solve their problems using a new technology. This is why the aim here is a social goal, not commercial goal. The aim is a social goal, not commercial goal. And this is why, as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur, you should recognize this opportunity. You should recognize this social opportunity. It is not a commercial goal. It is a social goal. And in this case, you should look at the social innovation. For example, if you look at the electric vehicle, the electric vehicle can be an output of social innovation. It's a new social movement. And it is a kind of social change. Because here you invent this in order to make social change, in order to decrease the problem of rush hours, and so on. This is a social aim, not a commercial or a commercial. This is the innovation process. What about the entrepreneurial growth process? We had a lot of models that try to illustrate and discuss the entrepreneurial growth process. You should know that the firm is like the human being. The firm should be introduced, and the human being will be born. The baby will grow, and the firm will grow in size. The human being or the teenager will be mature, and the firm will transfer from the growth stage to the maturity stage. Then the human being will die, and the firm will decline or exit. So there is such a kind of similarity between science and social science, pure science or nature and social science. Social science concerned with the social aspects like business issues. They are social science, but biology is a pure science. Okay, here I'm concerned about what? About changing the miniature itself. How the miniature will change? How the miniature change in its size? How it will grow? How it can exit in a safe phase, and so on. I am concerned here about development of this miniature over time. There are a lot of models that had explained the entrepreneurial growth process, and we have here 3 models. We are going to discuss these 3 models. And in each model, guys, you should explain in the exam 3 things. The description of the model. The second thing that you should describe, what is the difference between pure science and social science regarding this model? The third thing, the limitation of the model. Thus, in each model of the 3 models, you should describe 3 things. You should explain the model. You should compare between pure science and social science in this model. And you should write the limitations of the model. Okay. I'm going to mention the models, then I'm going to describe each one in deep details. First, the life cycle model. The second model is the developmental stages model. The last model is the evolutionary mechanism. We are going to start with the life cycle models. From the name of the model, we can see the terminology of a life cycle. We have a life cycle for the living organism, the human being, and we have a life cycle for the business or the venture. What is the difference? The living organism passes through certain stages: emergence or birth, growth, maturity, decline, and death. While the venture can pass through these stages also. And it passes through emergence, then growth, then maturity, then decline and death. But if there is a difference, yes, there is a difference. When I'm going to be concerned about the business, about the growth process of the venture, I am concerned about a lot of dimensions. It differs from the human being. I'm concerned about the age of the company, about the size of the company, about the stages of evolution, the stages of revolution, and the industry rate or the industry growth rate in which the firm lies in. These are the dimensions I should consider when I'm going to consider the growth process of a certain venture. And it is completely different from the human being. I'm not going to be concerned with this factor with the living organisms. I'm concerned with these factors when I'm going to study the growth process of a certain venture. Okay? For example, if you are going to study a certain venture that operates in the pharma sector, it is completely different from a certain venture that operates in the software industry. Why? Because the growth rate of the pharmaceutical industry differs from the growth rate of the software industry. You should also be concerned about the size of the firm. if this firm is large or small, if this firm is old or it is newly developed, the age of the company. You should be concerned about all of this. But these dimensions had been developed by Garnier. Garnier had developed also the life cycle model and try to describe the phases that each firm can pass by in its growth process. Here, Garnier concentrated on the description of the phase. Thus, I am only going to describe the phase, to explain the meaning of the phase. This is what happened. Let's start with the first phase. Garnier suggested that the first phase will be creativity. And here the entrepreneur or the founder will be concerned about coming up with new ideas. And if you'd like to come up with new idea, this means what? This means what? This means I'd like to discuss this idea with others and make brainstorming. Make what? Brainstorming. In order to let each one think. Because when we start, a venture can be a team. This is why sometimes you are concerned with this, with gathering information from others, gathering ideas from others, collecting a pool of ideas. What will happen here? Each one will let you as a founder know his or her ideas. Each one here senses that he will be the leader. This is why the problem that can be found in this phase is the leadership crisis. Each one would like to be the leader. Each one would like his or her idea to come true, to be implemented. This is the first phase. The second phase is the direction. And this phase tries to direct people, tries to direct the other members of the team to a certain goal. This is a formal stage. Because if you'd like to direct someone, you should have rules. You should let the others be responsible for certain things. This is why each one should depend on him or herself and try to feel that they are responsible. What is the problem? What is the problem here? The problem here is the autonomy crisis. Why this crisis had appeared? Each one say, I am responsible, as you said. Why you are going to give me directions? I can be the responsible for all of this. And this cannot happen. Because if you let everyone to do whatever he or she would like without rules, this can affect the process itself. This is why the autonomy crisis had appeared. The third phase is delegation. And we mean here delegation of authority or responsibility. Here the top manager will delegate the authority to juniors. And by this way, there will be a control crisis. Why? Because when you know that your supervisor or your manager will not monitor you or control you, sometimes you are not going to do something very well. And this is why control crisis can appear in this phase. Phase 4 is the coordination. Coordination of what? Coordination of activities. Because after delegation of authority, the juniors should communicate with each other. This is why they should make a formal plan. And if there is no formal plan, this can let the problem of a red tab crisis to appear. What does it mean? It means that some people don't like to coordinate. They'd like to stick to the procedure. They'd like to follow rigid formal rules. They don't like to be flexible. Yes, I'm going to apply the formal rules, but with flexibility. They don't like to do this. And by this way, they will apply bureaucracy. And this is why the red tab crisis can appear in this phase. The last phase is collaboration. And collaboration means problem solving. Because we are going to coordinate together, and there is a rule in business, more people, more problems, that you should solve the problems. You should come up with an education program how to let people communicate together with minimal conflict. These are the 5 phases. If you pass through the 5 phases, you are going to find that this is a straightforward model. Why it is a straightforward? It passes from one stage or one phase to another in a certain sequence. Here you cannot pass by any phase according to the model. But realistically, sometimes you are going, as a firm, you are going to pass by the direction phase, that you are going to start with creativity and then shift directly to delegation, coordination, and collaboration. What happened here? You didn't follow the sequence. Yes, this is realistically what happened. This is realistically what happened. But the straightforward thinking, like Garnier had discussed, sometimes cannot take place. This is why the sequence of stages is open to question. And it is clear that many small firms can succeed without passing through certain stages of development. And this is why this is the critics or the limitation of this model. Another thing is the subjectivity of the model. You said that you should encourage creativity. To which level? You should put formal system. How? This is something subjective. You didn't describe certain metrics for every phase. I'm going to do it. There should be metrics how I'm going to do it. There is no metrics. And this means subjectivity or reflects subjectivity of them. We can transfer to another model, model number 2, which is the developmental stages model. And this model is not concerned with the description of each phase. It is concerned with clarifying the challenges in each phase. Guys, please. It is concerned with defining the challenge in each phase. I'm not going to describe the phase. I'm going to be concerned about the challenge in each phase and the illustration of the challenge. This is why this model is more relevant to small growing ventures. Because at each stage, there will be a clarification for the challenge that they can face. And if you know that challenge, you can respond. You can put a strategic goal. You can make more involvement. What are the stages that had been suggested with the developmental stages model? The first is the existence stage. What do you mean by existence of a firm? Why Uber exists? Because there is customers for using Uber application. Thus, if the firm or the venture have enough customers, this means that the firm exists. And this is a challenge. The challenge is to have customers. The challenge is to have enough cash to operate the business. And this is stage one. Stage two is survival. How the firm or the venture can survive? If it is able to generate enough cash flow, or if it is able to get to the size needed in the sector. Stage number three is the success disengagement. What is the meaning of success of the business? What does it mean if you succeeded? If you succeeded, it means you reached a certain level of growth. And this is why if you will maintain your current position, we call this the success disengagement. But if you grow more than this, we call it success growth. This is why stage three contains success disengagement and success growth. And the challenge in the success disengagement is how to maintain my current position facing the competition in the market. But the challenge in the success growth, how I'm going to grow, how I can hire qualified and skilled employees. This is a challenge. Stage number four is a take off. It means taking responsibility from your shoulder. Take off for the responsibility from your shoulder. It means delegation of authority. The challenge, how I can delegate the authority effectively. Sometimes when you delegate authority to subordinates, they are not going to work well. They don't know how to work properly. This is a challenge. You should organize everything for them. You should make SOPs or standard operating procedures and so on. Also, generating enough cash flow. Because if you are not going to generate cash flow, what will happen? There will be loss. You're going to lose the venture. Stage number five is resource maturity, which means what? Which means that the business should be innovative and entrepreneurial for a long term. And how I can do this? This is a challenge. How I can be innovative for a long period. How I can come up with continuous new ideas. It is a challenge. Thus, this model hammers on what? On the challenges that the firm can face in each stage. This is different from the life cycle model, which was a sequential model and just to try to highlight the successive stages and describe them. No more. Referring to the last model, the third model, evolutionary approaches. This model is completely different from the life cycle and the developmental stages. It tries to respond to the limitation of the life cycle model and the developmental stages model. Why? Because this model tries to use the interconnected mechanisms. Try to consider variation, retention, operation of the business. and try to consider what had been applied by economists in the organizational theory. This means what? This means that it tried to detect the evolutionary process at different levels of analysis. At the industry level and at the birth level and at the mortality or death level. Studies here show that new industries tend to attract a large number of entrants. But there will be a problem. This large number of entrants may disappear. A lot of them can disappear. And a few of them can be prominent in the field. Why? Because of changes, because of variations. That you can have a lot of startups, but who will succeed? Who will continue? Few. This means what? This means that we need a justification for this. This is why this evolutionary approach had come up with two concepts: the past dependence and the past creation concept. The past dependence means what? As a company, as an organization, I am going to develop certain routine, and I don't like to change this routine at all. I am going to use certain technology, and I'm not going to change this technology at all. This means I had locked myself using this technology. That's why we call it technological lock-in or competency trap. Why? Because here, you are not concerned as a company with development. You are not concerned with responding to the dynamic environment. This is why you are going to fill in the competency trap. Another thing is the past creation. This is the other concept. And the past creation here tries to let us know that each company, each venture can create its face, can create its future. This means what? This means if you are a company, you can have certain humans with certain skills and certain previous experience and certain knowledge that can help you to create your path, to grow in the future. This is about firms, about ventures. But what about biology? What about pure science? As a human individual, can I create my life? Can I decide which stage I should pass in and reject other stages? For example, can you say that I am not going to pass to the decline stage? I'm not going to die. Can you say this? No. In pure science, you don't have the ability to decide to transform from one stage to another. You cannot decide to still a child all the time. Why? Because you will pass to the youth stage without your decision. It's science, it's biology. But the venture can decide to leave one stage. For example, I'd like at a firm not to decline. This is why I try to keep myself in the maturity stage. This is my decision. And I can pass through this through using different skilled people and introducing a lot of innovation. This is why there is two concepts. One of them is the path dependence. Thus, I am going to create a path and I'm going to depend on it. And path creation as a firm, I am going or to decide that I am going to create my future. I am going to pass by certain stage, and I am not going to pass by the other. We have here certain difference between the evolutionary process in natural and social science. Human beings are capable of looking ahead and making active choice regarding their ventures. But the human being as an organism, you are not able to decide to pass from one stage to another. Why? Because nature is blind. You don't have this choice. You will develop over time. Thus, we can conclude from our discussion today that we have a lot of approaches that had discussed the innovation process, like the technology push and the science push, the needful models, and the third and fourth generation models. We have also certain models that discuss the entrepreneurial growth process, which are the life cycle model, the developmental stages model, and the evolutionary model. We should know each model, try to describe it, try to differentiate between natural and social science in each model. What is the difference? Try to talk about limitations of this model. Here, you are going to find that most of the recent models try to be very conclusive and discuss how you can be as a venture very dynamic to the surrounding environment. For example, if you are going to live in a rapid economic growth country, you should adapt to this. If you are going to live in a rapid economic growth society, you should adapt to this. So there is a transition from incremental innovation to radical innovation. And this can take place. This is our week today. I hope you will or had enjoyed its discussion. And then now we are going to stop recording here and we are going to continue our lecture if there is any